All right, so welcome everyone. We are ready to get started. There may still be a few people joining the call, but in respect for your time, we want to transition into what you came for, and that's to learn how to save time and effort in planning your next mission trip. My name is Ken Briscoe, and I'm a senior product marketing manager here at ACS Technologies. And before we get started and I turn it over to the experts, we want to know who you are. So in the chat, let us know what your church or ministry, what church or ministry you're with. Let us know your location and what role you play currently at your ministry or church. Next slide. Also, just a few more housekeeping notes that I want to make you aware of. Our Q&A feature, you can see it to the right with the arrow pointing to it. I believe it has a question mark over it. But if you have questions during the webinar, please enter those questions into the Q&A as opposed to the chat. Please feel free to use the chat uh, during the webinar, but specific to questions so that we can make sure that we get to your question in a timely fashion. We ask that you put all questions in that Q&A part there. Last but not least, well, not last but not least, a couple of other notes. We also want to make sure you're aware that we will be recording this and that you will have the opportunity, you will receive this webinar via email. You can also share that with a coworker or someone else on your team. So I know that's always been a popular question for everyone. So just want to make sure we cover that before we get started. And last but not least, please make sure to follow us on social media so that you can stay abreast of other ACST webinars, events, and resources that we make available that will help you reach all of your ministry objectives. And so, as we get started, going to the next slide. So, as you're aware, the title of this particular webinar is Your 2025 Guide to Unlocking Significant Time Savings in Mission Trip Planning. We have three experts with us today. First, Jared Romano, who is head of channel sales and partnership. Samantha Knoll, who's a senior learning experience designer. And finally, last but not least, our product lead, Sam West. And so with that, I will turn it over to Jared.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I am part of the founding team for Go Method, and we're going to talk a lot about. I jokingly say anybody that has a three-ring binder, even if you've got a ChMS or a database with some forms or even some document storage, we're here to kind of shake that up. When we're talking about three-ring binders, I'm actually a pastor's kid whose father once he retired from senior pastoring, he went on to the missions world. And a lot of that functionality that we've tried to bring to it comes from these time savings tools that a real baby boomer like my father was hard to come up with. They had their standard processes. You had your paperwork as you went through. You had checks and fundraising letters, and that was really kind of how you went about your events, whether they be retreats, camps, and international, even disaster relief, as we see everything experienced on the west side of the country in California. We know there's a lot of events around this, and we're here to bring time savings, and we're here to bring the ability to do more. And we can do that through. We're going to talk about three different pillars. We're actually going to look at the platform itself. So please hang out every time we do one of these. we talk about all these time savings, and we talk about ways that we can plan better for 2025. And then people go, well, show it to me. So we're absolutely going to show that to you, do a little bit of a flyover at the end. And then with both Sams, we have both Samanthas with us today, that product lead of how it compares. And then also, once you have any interest, we're going to talk about some training around that. So starting with the first pillar of what we're talking about today is the fact that your three ring binder and your CHMS, we could have really called this what your CHMS doesn't do. It's really about creating an online process in 2025. We want to cover these approval processes, checklists, meetings. The fact that you don't have a centralized place, a very modern church or a modern organization today would at least say, well, here's a link so that you can go online. And usually we'll ask a set of questions there. What I would add to that, are you running a background check? Are you doing references? And most times people will say, oh, we've known that person for X number of years. Um, Without being too threatening, we've heard some horror stories around things that pop up within real time background checks, or making sure that we do our due diligence in references. And references oftentimes sound like an additional eye rolling amount of work. Oh, I have to call that person or I have to do this thing. Not really. We have a way that we can set up references. So you'd set up your own questions. And then when the individual is applying, they simply provide first and last name and an email address, and the automation goes and does that for you. So, really talking about what we're actually going to add this all up to is about 100 hours of time saved. And then we're going to show you how we do that. So, things like having an online process, you may think you have one, but how many levels deep? Does it go through an approval process? Do you gather the application questions, what I would call heart based questions? Are you a member of the church? Have you been on an event with us before? The depth of that. And then, okay, we have an approval process, we have a background check, we're gathering references so that we can have the confidence of approving that individual. Then there's the learning process, there's the asset gathering, there's our team meetings. And within this, will allow you to be able to do twice as much work with the same amount of staff. That's a stat that we're extra proud of. Is this is kingdom impact, and this is things that we're trying to expand and make cultural impact. We can do twice as much with the same amount of staff, and we do a lot of this time savings. And so I was watching as people were entering the chat there. We're going to talk to the concept of, oh, I'm a finance director. How does this impact me? Our IT person. How does this impact me? And then maybe you are the person that's carrying the three ring binder, or at least part of what you'd call like a team leader, maybe a youth pastor, where anytime we're gathering a group of people together and we're bringing them somewhere, this conversation that we're about to have can be had, and how we can save you a tremendous amount of time. Just a quick snapshot. And again, you're going to get this in the recording. So if you see a logo that's familiar, our IT person wants it to work with inside our database. Like I said, a database will not go to the levels and depth that we're going to go to. And that's where that time savings exists. Whether your ministry platform or Realm or Rock, the way we approach these different integrations, we're going to update people information. We're going to check on background check statuses. There's extreme value to the, do we reflect things that are in our management system and make sure that they interact with your trip management platform. The second biggest one for our people on the call, I always joke, nobody can end a software procurement like a finance director. So we try to play within the walls of the existing system that you have. There's a decent argument to say, well, this is just for missions, and we can have a separate missions fund or a separate missions payment merchant in case you don't see your payment merchant listed here. But a lot of times people have one of these either fully active or possibly even laying around dormant in the background. And this would be how we would help individuals fundraise. That's what you're going to see coming up is every individual once accepted on an event. And again, that can be a camp, that can be a retreat, that can be disaster relief or anything of the like. They can now fundraise on their own. Behind the scenes, insurance being providing insurance, we we learned that lesson through COVID very very well. Making sure that you're insuring either the trip as a whole or at least giving the individual going on your event the ability to purchase their own insurance of all that we'll manage, and you'll see that as you're managing the event. And then we even have the ability to book mass travel. So we work with two great partners, High Point and AFC Travel. This is a 2 to 3 click process. Now that we've gathered all the information from your participants, we can be able to book things the way, compile all the information the way they want it seen, and then populate that so you're not getting constantly asked, hey, what's our departing and what time and et cetera, et cetera. So these integrations power tremendous amounts of time savings, and you're going to see all how that adds up to our 100 hours. Making sure we have an online background or an online application process, having an integrated background check, very, very important. So the ability to look into the ChMS and question, hey, does Jared have a background check in the last 24 months? Is a great way to protect yourself and also not have to overspend. I don't want to have a background check for each and every event I go on. Now we're just piling up background checks that we surely don't need. Having those knowledge of both sides, making sure the ChMS is aware, your management system is aware, great. I talked about gathering references already, but making sure that we have our digital signatures out of the way. I'm sure if we could raise a hand around here, the amount of times that we have gathered our digital signatures the morning of departure or on in the van on the way to the event. I know that's how it was in our world. We're in said church van, and we're the youth going on a concert, and we've got a parent consent form that needs to be completed. Making sure that there's reminders around that. That's where we're going in our next slide. Making sure that we've got all of our paperless process fully functional through our legal process. So is that a parent consent form or a medical screening or something of that effect? We want to make sure that we're honoring that process. And then we're, of course, helping out the individual with that online fundraising, which is obviously very clear that online fundraising is very, very beneficial. It's just how much effort are we making the individual who's going on our event do that? And then there's also the benefit of things that are overfunded, either being shared with those less fortunate or that weren't able to fundraise, or even overfunding and being able to lower internal costs and van rentals and things of that nature. So making sure your online fundraising reflects the efforts that you're making. And a lot of times to that effect, oh, well, you have to go and do your own fundraising. We're really not involved in that. Here's some paper documents, and we'll scan those in and just make sure you make it to the team meeting and our CHMS, our database. We're just happy that you've signed up online. We're saying that won't cut it when you start to replicate and you start to grow this part of your ministry. That's what we're here for. And then a reminder system. This is the thing I cannot implore enough. This is how we multiply our efforts, making sure that behind every action that the participant who raised their hand to go on whatever that event was, that they're guided through this process and that there is somewhat of a consequence for not completing things on time. You have to book travel, you have to rent certain things, you've got meal plans, you've got all trainings and things of this nature. You've got to guide the individual. I need to know if I'm doing good or I'm doing bad. And as we take a look at this thing, we're going to take a look at an individual going through the process to know how that person is performing, both financially, both with their homework, with their team meetings, with cultural videos to watch, and then finally gathering all those assets that we need along the way. So making sure everything has a due date, make sure everything has a reminder process really, really, truly saves time. And we are waving our hands to go, please, please, please let us help you with that. And that does look like 100 hours of time savings that we're going to be able to bring to you. And so those three barriers, can we focus on those three things and guide them to a better experience, a more educated experience, and then finally for you a time savings experience so that we can go through and do more. As I'm going to pass to our first Sam, just some things that I want to cover. international, local outreach. I need to put in disaster relief here. I'm actually speaking at a disaster relief conference coming up in the next month here, retreats and camps, any gathering of people that we need to pre-screen as an organization to do our due diligence, then to help them fundraise along the way. And then to finally get all the things that we need. So that's the gathering of information, medical conditions that they have, medicines they're taking, blood types. And in a moment of an emergency, I need to access something quickly. We'd be here for that. I need to guide that person towards the finances that they have either um, wanting to invoice, or that it's something that it's just hard costs, or possibly something that they can fundraise towards and even over fundraise. We're here for that. And then it's on average, you're gathering between 10 and 15 assets and then training these individuals. We want to help with that process. So I'll pass to Miss Sam and talk about the power of these integrations that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so go ahead and go to the next slide for me, please. Like Jared has mentioned, Go Method has a handful of integrations, specifically church management software. They are all a little bit different, but there are some general rules that our system will follow. For example, matching to existing profiles or creating new profiles. So whenever someone registers for a trip or makes a donation to a trip in Go Method, the system will automatically check your church management software for an existing profile based off of things like name, date of birth, email, and address. If a match can be found, no new profile will be created. It'll just connect the two. And then if no match is found, Go Method will create a new profile in your ChMS. So this brings me to the next point, setting member status or types. The terminology is a little different based off of your ChMS. And this does vary depending on the ChMS, but Go Method will allow you to set designations for newly created profiles based on your preferences as far as member statuses or participant types. And then finally, writing donations and payments. Go Method will log all online transactions, whether they are donations to participants or payments from participants directly into your ChMS. While the specifics vary between systems, Go Method allows you to configure which funds are used for donations and which funds are used for payments under each trip's settings. With these integration rules, Go Method ensures seamless communication with your ChMS, making it easier to manage trips, donations, and participant data efficiently. That's it from me.
Sorry about that. I was on audio. Let me pass over to Miss Samantha.
Hi, everybody. I am Samantha. I am a senior learning experience designer, and I want to talk to you all about Go Method training that you can find for free in Ministry Smart Academy. So if you are ready to make your first mission trip, but you're still unsure of exactly where to start, I want to recommend exploring Ministry Smart Academy, which can equip you with all of the training that you need. So in this GIF that you can see, this is what Ministry Smart Academy looks like. It offers free training resources like courses, learning paths, and webinars that are free. There's both live and recorded webinars led by experts, deep discussions on product features and strategy, and there's also flexible learning. So you can explore this content anywhere, anytime, on your phone, on your computer, wherever it works best for you. All right, next page, please. All right, so courses. Here's an example of an interactivity that we offer in some of our courses. So you'll find videos, you'll find software simulations to practice your skills, real world challenges, best practices for strategy, and reflections to really think about how you can implement this technology to really improve your ministry and start planning mission trips. Next. Okay, we also offer learning paths. So if you're not sure which courses to start with, you can find content specific to your role in your organization. So we currently have 2 learning paths for Go Method. We have onboarding training and advanced training. So if you're just getting started, you can take the onboarding training. That'll help you set up your account from scratch and customize your account. And if you're a more advanced and larger organization, you can take Go Method Optimization. That's a learning path that offers courses of how to use more advanced features. Okay, live and recorded webinars similar to this one. They're led by experts in the industry. You can engage with them in real time, ask questions, and you can also explore any past recordings at your convenience. So if you miss a webinar, you can always check it out later. Access to the academy. So this sounds amazing, but how do you get there? It's pretty straightforward, but there are 2 ways depending on the product that you own. So if you are a Realm client and also Go Method, you can access Ministry Smart Academy directly from Realm. So in Realm, in the top right corner, you'll see this owl, this icon. Click there and it will take you to the academy. If you don't own Realm and you only are getting Go Method, or you already own Go Method, you can access directly in the product. So if you're in Go Method, you can click your icon with your face at the top right, scroll down as you can see in this GIF, and click Ministry Smart Academy, and that'll take you where you need to go. Okay, and this is all for me, but where to start? I would recommend you start with this learning path. This learning path is called Go Method Essential Training. So if you're brand new, you can start here to set up your account. You can skip through the course. You can use it as a reference. You can bookmark it, whatever works for you. But that's probably the best place to start if you are new. All right, thank you so much, Jared.
Awesome, awesome. I'm so glad we figured out it was GIF instead of GIF. I learned something new today. Thank you
I
so
hear
much.
both all the time.
Well, take a look here, guys. We do have a 30-day free trial for you. This is just follow this. You'll hear from me. We'll be following up with you, and we have some assets, of course, that come with this. If you can build your first event in that time, you're more than welcome to go through that and just experience this. Based on the time savings and the training that we've put around this for you, we want this to be unbelievably beneficial. You're going to see this again in a couple minutes, but we're going to go right to an overview. And so I'm going to hop out of this screen and I'm going to start here, and hopefully you all can see. I think we're sharing, so we'll start here. And everything I'm going to say here, I want it to impact hopefully our listeners right now. So the first thing, this is would live on your website. And the reason I'm showing it is because of a time savings value here. So this is helping out your IT person. This is helping out your finance person, and I'll go into why. And so here's a church that we have supported for a long time and has been on our platform. And this is the events that they're going to be doing in the next few months. And so if I'm interested in Uganda, it looks like we're going on the 5th. By clicking this, I can see, of course, all of our trips there, and I want to learn more about Uganda specifically. We've got our departure, our return, we've got who to contact, we've got funding milestones. This is what those reminders are going to be set against. Good job, Jared. You first paymented X, but you are $200 short of your goal. That sort of conversation between the participants is the value of a system like ours. For the people on the call, if I'm IT, the reason I like this is for only one time, not every single time somebody in the events department is creating an event, it's going to automatically populate here. So I just have to put that URL of learn more or I'm interested in. And when they click that, it goes to this environment. This is an environment that can be completely customized to your color, to your logo. This is a time savings of a one-time redirect. And then as the person who's running the events or who might be that Go person admin, the minute they hit launch, this automatically populates for them. So it's not that back and forth, hey, could you update this? I changed this, the color this, or the wrong image. It is all run on behalf of the events team. And then UIT are just supporting it. Same thing for finance. I can come here and apply, but there's two things that I could add to this page. One is this can't go give button. So when I hit can't go give finance team, it's not only going to be a single reconcile with the existing payment merchant that you have, but you can also put a fund in here. So this could be as specific as Uganda 2025 fund. This could be something global missions or something to that effect. I can give to the event as a whole, or in this corner, if the organization has it turned on. This one does not. But if I wanted to, I could show the little people and their avatars on here, and I could go over and donate to Sam. So one, we have the can't go give, then we have the individuals, all that you can single reconcile, and we're providing the individual with their own fundraising page that looks a little something like this. So we got our logo, here's our color scheme. I'm going to Cartagena for this example. I've got my own reason and paragraph that I can put here. And then I've got whatever our payment merchant is here. So we're now donating directly to the church, directly to your fund, single reconcile, and I didn't have to go make my own PayPal or GoFundMe or something like that. Then write you a check that then you need to. This is again direct to organization, direct to church. So the IT person's happy, the finance person's happy, the participant gets its own fundraising page that looks appropriate, and then I can send my thank you notes and everything, all based on the fact that I got their address and so on. So really a great first lift of visual, time savings, working with your existing system. And I, the person going on the event, I'm like, this looks like we got our stuff together here. So it's looking really good in that regard. Now we're going to start with a login of going behind the scenes as an administrator. So let's log in here and we'll look at our first event. So I log in and we're going to be doing a Los Angeles disaster relief. I literally just made this for the conference that I'm going to, so it was fresh on my mind. I figured we could talk to that. So we've got a countdown of our 19 days and we're on our dashboard, which means I'm the administrator of this event, and this is probably where I'm coming to on a daily basis. Certain action items that I need to do, where our team is in our fundraise, where we are in completing the event's homework that we need to do, where we are in that process. So our references or our background checks, our parent consent forms. Even if I'm in a team meeting, which we've got our upcoming team meetings here, I can come to here and go, everybody, pull out your phone. We're going to do our accident waivers right now, and we could watch this in real time be affected there. So this is just whatever's going on inside of our world as a team leader, a team administrator. IT, you're probably not going to be in this on a daily basis. Finance, you're probably not going to be in here. This is actually the ownership of, this could be youth pastor, this could be communications pastor, this could be our missions or outreach person. They would be in here on a daily basis and they would become your expert. And the nice part is everything we do and go is reflected out in our respective systems. As we scroll under details, this is kind of the under the hood of the event. We've got things like our event URLs, and we understand travel dates and registration dates and head counts. And how do you count a head count? Is it when someone's approved? Is it after the interview process? Is it when they gave a deposit? All of these things will even affect the head count. And so we truly are deep experts in this area of sending people on these particular events. We even have the concept of different types of people going on an event. So maybe it's a general team member, maybe it's nurses, maybe it's minors, maybe it's different questions that we want to ask. So multiple types of applications, multiple head counts, multiple pricing on the same event. We've got you covered. So we can do all of that there. We have concepts of a prerequisite, meaning I can't even begin the application process without a note from my doctor or agreeing to a standard of conduct. I, Jared, do believe that this is the behavior I will act in this manner. And then we've got our post-approval requirements, which are our reminder systems. Based on this, based on that, I remind, and then so as we get closer to that due date, I'm doing my homework. And the minute I am over that due date, we start to send in we have them defaulted at one a day. So I need this, sign this document, upload this, do this training, team meetings ahead, that sort of thing. We also have financial reminders. And then, even in addition to that, we see in the first 3 days of someone being overdue, 94% of them being completed. So it is kind of that, I always say it's maybe a good cop, bad cop approach. Let us be the reminder, let us be the annoyance. Roll your eyes and say, sorry, we have this new software. But if you complete said task, as an L means leader, P means participant, we have multiple paths that we can take people on. But if you do that homework, the the reminders will stop. So we'll stop being annoying if you do what you ask of us. So we've got things like checklists. We have concepts like a discount for a staff member. We've got coupon codes for whatever that process would be, and we can guide people through spring 15. And if you sign up before April 1st, it's 15% off the event or something to that effect. We have our team members. So people going on an event, we've got, as we mouse over these areas, the homework that they need to do. I'm being a good boy here. And so I've done a couple of my things. Check marks are good. Red is bad. That means it's overdue. Every single person I can come in here and help them along. The only thing I can't do on their behalf is, of course, sign a legal document on their behalf. But everything else I can do, I can come in here, I can change their status, I can add them to a group. I can, maybe because Jared is the pastor's son of a something something, I get $200 or $300 off or something like that. Everything is very, very customizable in Go. Every individual has their own funding story. So support me because of X, Y, and Z. I mentioned I can help people go through their homework. I can see their funding and move their funding around depending on my permissions as an administrator. We even have IRS complicit details here where we can have notes, we can remove a donation, we can issue refunds, we can transfer funds between members or spread it out amongst the team or transfer to another person or transfer to another event. That's a big one for us administrators out there. You know what? I can't go because of X, Y, and Z. Well, guess what? We've created a sorting of that. So I can't go to this particular event, but I am able to go to Argentina. Well, let's move over his application questions. Let's move over his profile questions like his medicines and his blood type. Let's move over the finances. Let's move over the homework that he's completed. And now he's 3/4 of the way ready for Argentina. For administrators out there, that is usually, if you guys are unmuted, that's maybe our biggest woohoo moment. The tremendous amount of time savings for the individual and then us as administrators, because we know people just kind of flake out halfway through, and we want to make sure that we can onboard them to the next thing. General funding as a whole, this will be fully populated. Again, this is interacting with your payment merchant and to be able to issue a refund or as people start to donate to that trip as a whole. So this is me donating to that can't go give. I don't care what you do with the money. I just want to donate towards this goal, towards this mission. That would be unallocated. And then we could start applying that within this funding area and we can move those funds around. So just another valuable aspect of this. We have insurance. So this is that either Faith Ventures, we work very, very close with. This is a way for you to now insure the individuals. And you can either pick up the phone the old fashioned way and then simply put in your last name and your order number and find that policy. Or based on the fact that we have all this information from our team members, we can start the insurance process by going through our group options. And Go is so intertwined in this Faith Ventures partnership that it will right click and populate all of that information so that you can send it over to them in really 2 to 3 clicks is how we get there. So another time saving aspect, another headache that we're just trying to protect you guys as you do this. We have basic team meetings and where do I need to be? And we've got an upcoming welcome meeting and I can take attendance at that welcome meeting and say, oh, here's our guys. They were here for this particular meeting and send them reminders about this meeting. Just really valuable tactical stuff. Administrators is our last tab, and then we'll we'll get out here and start to answer some questions. If we click on our admin tab here, we can manage the information. We can come down here and help with meetings or confidential notes. This is adding someone as an administrator just to the LA relief effort, not to our whole platform. They don't need to see everything going on. But this is just somebody who's going to give us a hand. And this person may not even be going on the event, but we just want to have them have some permissions to help us out along the way. And then finally, these are my personal preferences, what I want to be available for, notifications or requirements or that public support. Remember, I told you you could see the person on that public page. I need to opt in that I would be shown on your on that public page. So all those are in our preferences. But lastly, talking about how much this costs and landing the plane for us today is we start every event in setup mode, so you could absolutely have all of your events ready to go for the year and turn them on as you desire. But we'd set up in setup mode. This button right here, launch, we would click on launch, and that then makes it public. It makes it one of those squares that we see on that landing page. And then we could start taking applications, we can start fundraising, we can start doing all our homework behind it. And simply to do that is $100. So $100 to save 100 hours is really the angle that we're coming at. This is an unbelievably compelling tool that protects the organization, that works with the IT side of the house, which is our database. It works with our finances and helping those finance fundraise and talking a fluent language, a matching fund for our finance teams. And then I, as the individual running the trip, have this awesome tool. And I, as the individual, have this mobile experience to where I've applied. Oh, I'm approved. Oh, I need to fundraise. This is my homework for this. I need to sign these documents. And the way I would close this is we are simply not just international missions. We're not just disaster relief. We can be used for the gathering of information, the gathering of finances, and to net it at, wow, I've managed this entire event for $100. That's where we seek to come in as ACS to truly partner with you, the organization, and really take the burden from you all and be able to multiply those efforts. And so I'll simply hit launch here. We'll have a credit that I'll purchase. Actually, I think it will even ask me for that credit right now because I don't have it plugged in. So this would be your experience in your trial. And it's going to take me over to here to say, hey, put in that billing information and I'm going to buy X number of credits for $100 per event. They're not going anywhere. Can auto reload our document signatures. So that's our only change in cost there is if you want to continue to do digital documents, of course, you could accept handwritten ones as you'd like. But if you wanted to do digital documents, those would be $1.50 per document. So maybe your head count is 15 people going on that event and we want to buy one event. Well, that total for us today would be $122.50. And now I've managed the whole event. The thing that I always tell people, we hope that Go comes to you at a net cost of zero because you are the host. And we know we've got to cover for this particular event $122.50. And we know 15 people are coming on that event. We could increase the per trip cost towards the individual. I wish I would have done a simpler number. 15 divided by 122 and increase that cost by $7 or $8 to cover that individual trip. So let's get creative. We are the controllers of the overall cost of the trip. We can increase that and have that come in at a net zero for you all. Save you the time, save you the effort, give a good experience to the people going on this event, and hopefully you see the excitement of how we've done this for thousands of organizations, and we've done tens of thousands of these trips in the past. So with that, I'm going to pass back to Ken, and we can continue on with our webinar today.
All right. Moving forward, I think we've already talked about the opportunity to sign up for a free trial. So once again, here's that QR code, or you have the link before you as well. So if you're interested in realizing some of these real time savings and time and effort, then please make sure you make use of that QR code. At this point, we want to move on to Q&A. And so we ask that if you do have a question, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen with the question mark over it. And you can put those questions in the Q&A chat, or excuse me, in the Q&A box. And I will go ahead and just start putting out some of the questions that we already have, so that everyone can kind of be aware of some of the questions that are being answered. And this can go to any of our experts. First question, we recommend that we add in the notes if a family member submits payment by check.
Sure. Yeah. So you could either do the check number. But there's basically going to be an internal process of check comes in, and then all the system wants to know, and honestly, all the participant wants to know is, hey, did you get grandma's check? It was for $75. I want that to go towards my total. So whatever internal process that you have, usually that looks like once a week reconcile for you, the trip leader, and you're taking that check and you're passing it to your finance director. And then that can be reflected however you'd like. The finance director rules the roost with this practical side of things. For Go Method, it's really only concerned with whatever that note is that you'd like to put in there. Check has been cleared. So I would say probably once a week you would be handing the checks to your finance team. They would cash those checks and report back to you. Hey, everything was good with Jared's grandma's $75 check. You would simply either the finance person or most likely the team member or the team leader go over to Jared's profile, put grandma's check, or obviously first name, last name of grandma, for $75. And you could put maybe in the note the check number or something like that. And I'm just going to simply see that, oh, wow, I'm $75 lighter in that fundraising process.
Thank you, Jared. Another question for the team. Can the automated notifications be turned off? I have seen how to set the timing, but would like to have them off for some trips.
Yeah, so you can turn them off, or on behalf of the individual, they can turn them off. So at no point are we here to spam them. We want to be, like I said, that kind of muscle of making sure that they drive towards it. I would set it to either the lowest setting there, or as I mentioned, when I log in as a participant and I go to that My Preferences as the individual, I can turn off those notifications and not be bothered.
Okay. Next question for you. When you put in the total trip costs, can that be changed as people are added to the trip? For example, if the flight cost went up and the budget needed to be increased.
Yes, indeed. You'll see it as you're putting in, you'll see a warning, and it scares people the first time. We'll have to even make it a little bit more obvious. The only time you're seeing a warning there of this cannot be changed, what that's in reference to is the bank account that is tied to the event, not the price of it. You can always change the price. You can change it individually. So I could go in and change Ken's because maybe a certain group of people are booking through us and maybe a certain group of people booked separate. You could go in and change the individual, or you could change the overall trip costs in real time and have it affect. And it will ask you, would you like to affect the 14 other people on this event, sort of thing? You're always allowed to change the cost of the trip. The one thing that you're getting that kind of red, scary warning on is saying, we're tying this to your Vanco account, we're tying this to your Stripe account, we're tying this to whatever. That is what we don't want to change halfway through, is switching bank accounts where this money is being sent, because that will confuse the system. So that's more or less what we lock. You could change it if you sent in a support ticket, and we would work with you there. But we're trying not to never change the bank account. But for changing the cost of the trip, go nuts.
Great. Thanks, Jared. Another question that just came in. What type of clearance do you need to give the person who is running the trip but doesn't have monetary clearance?
It just depends on your expectation of their role. As we go into admin, you'll be able to actually create a series of tree structures. A tree structure meaning kind of like the old Microsoft Word kind of thing. Because I'm this, I am allowed these 5 boxes or 8 boxes. We have a tremendous amount of administrative rights, and you'll simply say, Ken can do this, 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 not this, and not that. And we call that role, and you'll be able to name it whatever you'd want, assistant to the trip leader. And the assistant to the trip leader, therefore, has XYZ events or permissions. So it's really up to you. Some people have carte blanche. They don't mind you seeing the finances, and they don't mind you seeing a background check status or something of that nature. You can make it as small as, I can only leave notes on the person. I can only approve the person after I've taken the notes, and my job is done after that, all the way down to the full boat of interactivity. So just up to you guys, and fully customizable to get to that goal.
All right. Couple more questions that we have in the chat. Uh, excuse me, in the Q&A, excuse me. If donations are given through the church office, can I add them to the team members portal, or can donations only come through the team member?
Fully manual as well. So that is that funding tab there. We'll be able to create any type of, we call them allocation types. It's right by where you create your documents and your requirements. You'll see something called allocation types. Allocation types can be, you could call it car wash because you've accepted money from a car wash. You could call it scholarship. You could call it whatever it is. And all that is simply an allocation as to where those finances can go. And you could say, I'm bringing in $500 from the bake sale. Okay, great. Now, what are we going to do with that $500? It's unallocated. What would we like to do with that? All right, we'd like to equally spread that out across these 3 individuals, or maybe everyone on the team. Anytime you're taking in some sort of manual fund and wanting to spread that out or have it affect something in Go Method, you simply would go and manually add that either to the individual or to the team.
Jared, I have a follow-up question, and this is from the question that you answered right before this one about clearance. And let me just remind you, what type of clearance do you need to give the person who is running the trip but doesn't have monetary clearance? The follow-up question is, and would that be just for that trip?
Yes, it could be. So we have 2 different types of administrative rights. We have the admin, which would be admin manage admins. That's where you get that heavy customization. If you want them to just be focused on that trip, you would go with inside the trip. You would go down to that admin tab and then be able to give them individual permissions there. We don't have a naming characteristic in the individual trip, where somebody would call it assistant to the assistant to the manager, a traveling manager, whatever. We would be able to name them that when we're giving them access of the entire platform. So it's just the naming rights that change versus the individual trip versus the entire platform. And Sam, you can
Okay.
even help me out with that if you wanted to answer that question. Sam's our I shouldn't be talking. Sam's our regional genius around here.
All right. Moving on to the next question. How does Go Method's tracking of donations connect to the finance accounting side? Does the accounting side have to be connected to another ACS Technologies program, or can it be a different one?
It can be a different one. It is basically all we're doing from a technological lift is providing the form that gathers the finances public in certain areas. So the idea of we'll use the most anonymous of them all, authorize.net or Stripe, where yeah, it's kind of the lowest level of technology. We just want to uh, swipe a card in theory and gather the finances. The other partners we have are more customer service focused or this or that. Those authorized Stripe are just fairly anonymous, and they just they're only interested in transacting the dollar. So in all of those payment merchants, we're just tying it to either Jared's page and presenting the gathering of information and the moment of donation. Um, then behind the scenes, life lives as you have it set up. So in Go Method, we're going to ask for either the payment merchant and the fund or a general fund. So it will write to Stripe Global Missions Fund, or you could even make it by creating a fund inside of Stripe, Uganda 2025, and Jared's transaction, which is really just a transaction to your organization. We're just allocating those funds to Jared. Jared is never being given those funds personally. The receipt of Jared has nothing to do with him. It was just a donation, in theory, from Sam to church, and then church is using those funds to pay for Jared's trip. So that's really how it stays fairly agnostic. There's not a tremendous amount of quote unquote integration there. There is when you're issuing refunds or you're transferring funds or things of that nature. But the way we use the payment merchant is simply the aspect of swiping a card or transacting and tying it to a fund that you have. What you use beyond that, totally up to you. You don't need to have a ChMS connection. You don't need to lean on us for refund. All of that stuff can happen behind the curtain if you decide. We're just simply here to say that money that was given to the church is earmarked for Jared for the total of $150 towards this goal that we've set for him. Very simple integration, very simple use.
Okay. I think that is the last question. We are 5 minutes to 2, so I think we are at a point where we can bring this particular webinar to a close. We again want to thank you for joining us for this webinar. Again, you're reminded that this recording will be sent to you. And as well, if you're interested, you will still have the QR code once you receive the recording so that you can use that at any time. If you or anyone on your team at church is interested in using this particular solution. Thanks again, and we hope to see you again. Take care.